Hi, this is Ted. I'm going to be talking today about testimonies. I'm going to be talking about Bill Johnson and the book that he's written recently. Maybe it's not too recently, but it's a book he wrote about prophecy. And I'm going to be talking about his discovery that testimony is powerful and why it is powerful. But first, I'm going to show you a video from him, because he explains it a little better than I do. And it's just a portion of chapter 1 of the book I am reading. After he gives you his explanation, I'm going to be getting into and explain to you why this can work on a certain level. And then I'll explain to you what is wrong with this whole thinking. Here's the video.
Hi. A number of years ago, I embarked on a journey. I asked the Lord a question. I had read a passage in Revelation 19:10 that just leapt off the page at me. It says, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. I remember when I read that, I was stunned by the words. I'd read it many times before, but this time it seemed to become food. And yet I couldn't have explained it if my life depended on it. I just knew I needed to discover that one. So I said, God, teach me what this means. Show me what it means. And over a period of time, people would bring me stories, testimonies of what Jesus had done. A testimony is a spoken or written record of any of God's activities in our lives. And they would bring me a story. And I remember one particular man that afternoon that I prayed the prayer, stood in the doorway of my office, told me what God was doing in his marriage. And then he stopped and he said, you can share this with anyone you like. It hit me that was in part the answer to my prayer. He was saying, share my story with someone else to give them hope of what God would do. And I realized the testimony of Jesus prophesies to the people who hear what God is willing to do for them. Testimonies are important because they're stories. They're stories about God's nature. They reveal his heart. They reveal his person. They reveal what he values. They reveal his interactions with people, his history with mankind. And every time we tell a story, we actually create an opportunity for that story to be duplicated. I have found that when you share a story in the room, it becomes pregnant with the possibility of God doing that same miracle again. And one of the reasons we share the story of God's interventions in our lives is it keeps people aware of the nature of God, the heart of God, and there's a readiness to see God do it again. I encourage you, listen to testimonies, share them. You'll change the atmosphere that you live in.
Catherine Kuhlman, as well as many other famous healing evangelists, learned the power of testimony. They knew the power of testimony, and they depended strongly on the power of testimony. There are several ingredients that pump people's quote-unquote faith. I'm going to say quote-unquote because it really is pumping their expectations. It's helping them to believe that those expectations are real and can be accomplished. Catherine Kuhlman, I believe, meant well in what she did. She knew in her ministry, in fact, she encouraged the doctor to come along and examine people and talk to them. She encouraged him to follow up, something very few, if any, faith healers ever want to do, simply because what he is going to find out is the faith healer's worst nightmare. She invited William Nolan, a doctor, to come and help her out at one of her crusades, talk to the people who were healed, talk to their doctors, and follow up for months to come. And that he did. He had dozens and dozens of names, and only 27 of them wrote back to him and said, sure, I'll tell you all about everything. And so he was able to talk to their doctors. He was able to find out a lot of information. What he found is out of the 27, none of them were cured. None of them. Several of them had exaggerated their issues and their problems, and one person actually damaged their back further because Catherine Kuhlman had the lady or the girl take off a brace, and she had a back that just could not be supported without a brace. She did fine on the stage, but after that, the next day, her back collapsed and she died several months later. Catherine Kuhlman knew about this. She also knew that many people exaggerated, but how are you going to know if somebody's exaggerating on stage or not? But she knew it existed because she admitted that to a magazine, People magazine, before she died. She focused, however, on the people that she believed were getting healed. So for her, it didn't really seem to matter that a lot of people weren't getting healed. She really focused more, and her complete focus was on those she believed were truly getting healed in her crusades. Whether intended or not, she received testimonies and stories with this in mind. She refocused those testimonies, oftentimes redirecting them, putting words into the people's mouths to help the drama to be more real. I think down deep, she really may not have known what she was doing, but she was directing all this testimony and redirecting it to those people she believed were getting healed and needed that extra faith, that extra expectation to find the miracles that they needed. Truth of the matter is, testimonies, whether they're in church, whether they're one-on-one, whether they're in front of a stage of thousands, testimonies get exaggerated a lot. It is a very common practice. William Nolan found that out when he talked to doctors and family members of those who were on stages. And not only William Nolan, but people studying Benny Hinn and other faith healers. They find that people tended to exaggerate when they were on stage, when they were in front of other people. People also like to claim healing that doesn't really exist. Kenneth Copeland teaches that this is necessary for healing, is to speak healing, to speak, never say negative things, never say, I am sick, never say things like that. You always want to say and speak words, because those words will come into existence. So if you say, I am healthy, if you claim it, you're going to find that health that you need. So when people get on stage and say that they're healed, how many are being honest? We don't know. And neither does Benny Hinn. Neither did Catherine Kuhlman. People fake sicknesses. Did you know that? I mean, people fake sicknesses, not just on stage. It's called factitious disorder. Another word for that is the Munchausen disorder. The difference between that and malingering is like, okay, I don't want to go to work today, so I call in sick. Whereby people who just end up in hospitals a lot, end up talking to doctors a lot, and even though they don't have a real sickness or disease, but they say they do, that is a disease. That is something, actually a disorder, that is called factitious disorder. And sometimes they bring kids into it. My child is sick. She has this problem, that problem. And with all of these different testimonies and all the different types, because the audience and me as a member don't know the difference, I can't tell if somebody has this factitious disorder. I can't tell if they're claiming something. Some people are really good at saying, God just healed me, when in fact God didn't, but they just want to get the healing, so they claim it. Sometimes it's easy to tell, because if you say something, I claim I have it. Oh, you know he got it. And by the way, I read a lot of that in comments underneath some of these faith healers. You'll hear things like, I am claiming that I am over this sickness. I'm claiming that I do not have arthritis. I'm claiming this, or I am stating. When you hear things like that, you know you're dealing with somebody who really has not found the healing, the cure, but is trying to establish the cure through saying, I claim. With all these testimonies on stage, it does something to the audience. Me and the audience, hearing all these things, my expectations rise. I believe I believe so-and-so has been cured from cancer. I believe so-and-so has been cured from arthritis. I believe it. And because I believe that, and because I believe the message preachers have been telling me that God still heals, and he does, my expectations rise. And with my rising expectations, I start thinking, God can do that for me. And if you've been following me, you will know expectation is the basic ingredient to the placebo effect. So because of that expectation, it does something within me. It creates endorphins, dopamine, and other chemicals I don't understand yet. I'm meaning to dig into that one of these days, but one of these days I will. Then I'll tell you all about the difference. But when these chemicals come from my brain, it actually kills pain. It actually relieves symptoms of certain types. And I believe because I'm in the context of healing, God's healing, I believe a miracle just took place. So testimonies are not so clear-cut. I do not know what testimonies I can trust, believe in, or not. You have people who like to exaggerate, even people who don't mean to. It's just, it happens with testimonies. Exaggeration and testimonies go hand in hand all too often because of the effect it can have on other people. So to say something like testimonies open up the kingdom of God, testimonies give birth to other healing, at best it can help the placebo effect to be more effective on its temporary and limited way that it is effective. Finally, placebo effect looks a lot like a real miracle. And because people don't know anything about a placebo effect, what it does and how it acts, what they see, and the context they see that in the context of worship, in the context of feeling the presence of God, they assume it's a miracle. And yet they have no explanation why that miracle is only temporary. And this said, you have a good day.